Hello, everyone, and welcome to our first lesson for the third quarter. And what we are going to talk about today is the arts of the Neoclassic and Romantic period. So, this is the lesson one, and it is under the art production of Neoclassic and Romantic periods. So for our most essential learning competency, at the end of the lesson, you'll be able to analyze art elements and principles in the production of work following a specific art style from the neoclassic and romantic periods. And second, you'll be able to identify distinct characteristics of arts during the neoclassic and romantic periods. So first, let's differentiate yung pagkakaiba ng Neoclassicism and Romanticism. So Neoclassicism refers to literature, theater, music, and architectures which were inspired by ancient Greece and ancient Rome's classical art and culture. 'Di ba alam naman natin na ang classical art talaga is yun yung ancient Greek and ancient Rome. Pero nung bumagsak nga itong ancient Greek and ancient Rome because of wars at saka yung iba't iba mga kaguluhan na nangyari before the medieval period, so nawala na din talaga sila. Nasira na talaga yon, nawala na yung classical art na yon na in-establish ng ancient Greece at saka ng ancient Rome. Pero kaya tinawag siya na neoclassical kasi binuhay ulit o kaya kumbaga muling binigyan ng panibagong mukha o muling ginamit yung style na ginamit ng mga ancient Greek at saka ancient Rome nung panahon ng Neoclassicism. Kaya nga sinasabi diyan na although wala na talaga yung ancient Greek and ancient Rome kasi matagal na sila nasira nung panahon nga nung bago mag-medieval period, pero yung mga arts na nabuo nung panahon ng Neoclassicism is inspired sa kanila. Yun. So, it is also known as the Age of Enlightenment. So, di ba last quarter sa music, pinag-aralan natin what is the Age of Enlightenment or Age of Reason. Dito, parang sa Age of Enlightenment, nung panahon na yon, na-realize ng mga tao yung kahalagahan nung purpose kung bakit mo ginagawa ang isang bagay na hindi nakasalalay o nakasumusunod dun sa kung ano lang yung sinasabi sa iyo ng tradisyon. So bakit pa nagkaroon ng Age of Enlightenment? Kasi ito na yung panahon na kung saan yung mga tao nakapag-aral na sila, particularly yung mga middle class men, so nagkaroon na sila ng idea of what is happening in the society. And during doon time kasi ng classical period, kung saan nabuo itong neoclassicism na 'to. Ang naghahari noon sa lipunan ay yung mga aristocrats at saka yung prior to that na naghahari naman is yung church. Kumbaga parang all throughout that period, yung mga tao, they are always being suppressed or being parang minomonopolize yung kanilang buhay nitong mga aristocrats na 'to, nitong mga mayayaman tao na 'to. Pero dahil nga nung panahon nga ng medieval period, unti-unti nag-rise up yung mga middle class kasi nakapag-aral na sila, nagkakaroon na sila ng sarili nilang income, nagkakaroon na sila ng boses sa lipunan. And that is the reason why na-enlighten na sila, na-realize na nila, ay bakit nga ba ako nagpapaalipin dito sa mga tao na to, dito sa mga aristocrats na to. Well, kung meron naman akong kakayahan na buhayan ng sarili ko. So kaya yun yung sinasabi na Age of Enlightenment or Age of Reason, nagkaroon na sila ng kakayahan na mag-question patungkol sa mga nangyayari sa kanilang kapaligiran, sa particularly sa kanilang lipunan. Kaya yung mga tao nun, ano na sila, kumbaga kine-question na nila yung purpose nung bakit nila ginagawa ang isang bagay. So the works of art such as paintings, sculptures, and architectures typically depicted Roman history that exalted the heroes of Roman times. So bakit pa laging inspired ng mga Greek and Roman itong mga paintings, sculptures, and architecture nung panahon ng Neoclassicism? Kasi nung ang panahon na iyan, kumbaga parang ine-exalt ng mga tao yung mga heroes from the Roman times. Yan, yun, Alexander the Great, tsaka yung iba't iba pa mga kilalang mga Roman heroes, yung kanilang leadership, at saka at the same time, yung mismong culture ng mga ancient Rome at saka ancient Greek. Kumbaga masyadong natutuwa o na nagagandahan yung mga tao nung panahon na yon, ng classical period, sa mga gawa ng mga sinaulang tao from the ancient Rome and ancient Greek. So that is why works of art such as painting and sculptures typically depicted the Roman history. Yan. So, tingnan naman natin, ano naman ang meron sa Romanticism? So, Romanticism is a movement or trend in which the artists of Neoclassical period sought to break new ground in expressions of emotion, both subtle and stormy. So, di ba, nung panahon ng classical period, ito yung panahon na kung saan mayroong mga standards na sineset in order to that the artists have to follow kasi nakakulong nga sila dun sa ideology na ito yung ideal na maganda. Greek art, Roman art. So, meron no mga latter part ng neoclassical period, merong isang klase ng movement na nagsimula ding question sa mga bagay na yun. Kasi di ba sabi ko nga sa inyo, Age of Enlightenment, ito yung panahon na ang mga tao talaga nag-iisip sila. So parang nung panahon ng neoclassical, there is a certain standards or a certain ideal of what beauty looks like, and that is yung beauty ng ancient Rome and ancient Greek. And then parang na-realize ng mga latter part ng neoclassical period na bakit din parang ganun din ang nangyayari, bakit parang nagpapakulong din tayo sa mga standards. So kaya nabuo yung Romanticism. So anong meron dito sa Romanticism? This is a movement or trend in which the artists of neoclassical period, this is still part of the neoclassical period, they sought to break new ground in expressions of emotion, both subtle and stormy. So, ibig sabihin, di tinatry nila na umalis dun sa standard na yon ng neoclassical, kundi magkaroon sila ng panibagong form of expression ng kanilang emotions, both in subtle, ibig sabihin yung parang hindi masyadong halata, at the same time, meron naman isang example is yung stormy naman. Kumbaga dito naman sa arts, hindi lang pala sa music nagkaroon ng Romanticism, kundi even dito sa arts nagkaroon din ng Romanticism. Kasi di ba Romanticism is more on expression of their emotions, yung kanilang mga feelings, their thoughts. That's what Romanticism is all about. So it embraced several distinctive themes such as a longing for history, supernatural elements, social injustices, and nature. Actually, part of the reason why nagkaroon ng Romanticism is because the people during that time had enough injustice in their lives. Kasi itong panahon ng Romanticism, ito na yung panahon na kung saan napakarami ng mga pag-aaklas na nagaganap sa lipunan. Kung titingnan natin yung history niya, yung time frame ng Romanticism, it started in 1820s and ended in 1900s. Kung if we will look at the history during the time, ito yung panahon na kung saan yung mga colony nung mga empires sa iba't ibang panig ng mundo. 'Di ba? Ano ba yung mga makakapangyarihang colonial na mga bansa nung panahon na yon? Example nito is yung Spain, yung France, yung Great Britain, yan yung England, yung Portugal, yan yung mga bansa sa Europa na talagang sinakop talaga nila yung mga mas maliliit na mga bansa sa kanila. Yung mga bansa na yan, meron silang mga hari at saka may mga namumuno sila talagang tyrant. And nung panahon ng Romantic period, yung mga tao na nasasakupan nitong mga tyrants na to, nagsimula na sila talagang magrebelde. Kaya sobrang heightened ng emotions, kaya to the point that they want to express themselves with their thinking, their longing for justice through different forms of art and even through different media. Kaya nga example na nito, 'di ba, sa bansa lang natin, 'di ba? Isa sa mga kilalang romantic painter sa ating bansa ay si Juan Luna, and yung painting niya na Spolarium is a perfect example of Romanticism. Why? Kasi ginamit niya yung art na yun to express yung social injustice na nangyayari sa ating bansa. So kaya nga yan, yung mismong context ng Romanticism, it embraced several distinctive themes such as longing for history. Kumbaga, they want to change something that is happening in their society, and then supernatural elements because the people are become desperate of what is happening all around, that to the point na gusto na nilang humingi ng tulong sa mga supernatural elements, sa mga god, sa mga magic, sa mga ganyan. And of course, there are social injustices that is happening all around. Sa Pilipinas na, di ba, gano'n nakarami ang mga Pilipinong pinapatay nung panahon ng mga Espanyol, nung panahon ng nung panahon panahon ng himagsikan, di ba? Like Jose Rizal, yan, sila Andres Bonifacio, yung mga bayani natin, sila yung mga nakaranas ng social injustices. At sa ibang mga bansa, meron din sila mga ganong klaseng bayani nung panahon ng Romantic period. And also, yung about sa nature. So landscape painting was also made more popular because of the romantic adoration of nature by the inhabitants. So isa din sa mga nag-flourish during the time of Romantic period is yung landscape painting, which is not evident during the time of Neoclassicism. Kasi nung panahon ng Neoclassicism, it's more on mga Roman heroes, yung mga Roman characters, mga tao, at saka yung mga about sa mga Greek mythology, mga ganyan ang mga kadalasan na pinipaint nila at saka mga ginagawa nila ng artworks. Pero nung panahon ng Romanticism, it's more on landscape painting, historical painting, genre painting, what is happening all around them. Yan. Okay, so let's analyze the different elements of Romanticism and Neoclassicism so that we could differentiate them. Yan. So what are these elements? We have the values, inspiration, tone, subject, techniques, role of art, composition, lines, and texture. So let's start with the comparison between the values of Neoclassicism and Romanticism. So as for values of Neoclassicism, it speaks of order and solemnity. So bakit? Kasi order is parang a set of standards that they have to follow. Kaya nga sabi ko sa inyo, di ba, nung panahon ng Neoclassicism, they are following certain traditions and standards when it comes to making an art. Meron parang ideal na ano yung maganda, ano yung balanse, kinakailangan clear, yung design, ganyan. So that there will be order. And then at the same time, nandun yung solemnity kasi more on sa mga heroes, more on sa mga Greek gods and goddesses, yung mga pinapakita sa Neoclassicism. So, andun talaga yung evidence ng simplicity, ng balance, ng harmony in terms of the art elements. While nung panahon naman ng Romanticism, what they value is intuition, emotion, and imagination. Why? Kasi 'di ba, Romanticism is highly emotional. Kumbaga, parang bumalik yung panahon ng Baroque period na very emotional yung mga tao. Etong Romanticism, ibang klase yung hugot ng emosyon ng mga tao noon kasi they want to express yung kanilang feelings through the arts. So, makikita natin, ma-feel natin through the artworks that there is a extreme expression of emotion and intuition, ibig sabihin yung kanilang pakiramdam. And at the same time, yung kanilang imagination. So, lumabas sa kulungan ng order, ng standards, ng ideal ang mga tao nung panahon ng Romanticism because they wanted to express themselves more through the arts. So, next tayo. How about the element of inspiration? What inspired neoclassical art? So, sabi dito, ang inspiration daw ng neoclassical art is yung classical Rome, patriotism, courage, and honor. So, nung panahon na yan, it's more concentrated on the exaltation of the Roman heroes and at the same time yung patriotism. Kasi di ba nangahari na nga doon yung parang the breakage of the patronage system. Patronage system is yun yung mga yung naghaharing sistema nung panahon ng classical period wherein isang aristocrat is siya yung dahil mayaman siya, so may kakayahan siya na bumili ng mga artists and they consider the artists as their slaves. So, nung panahon ng classical period, tinanggal nila yon. Kumbaga, yung mga artists, yung mga musicians, yung mga workers, hindi na sila nagpapaalipin dun sa mga patron na yun. Kaya nasira yung patronage system nung panahon ng neoclassical period. Kaya naghahari na din ang context ng patriotism ng panahon ng neoclassical period. At the same time, there is courage and there is honor because nag-prevail na yung education nung panahon ng neoclassical. How about nung sa panahon ng Romantic period? Sa panahon naman ng Romantic period, ang inspiration naman nila is yung medieval and Baroque eras. So bakit kaya ganun? Kasi di ba nung medieval and Baroque eras, nung panahon ng medieval, ito yung panahon ng mga knights, Sila yung mga nakipaglaban doon sa nung panahon ng mga war. And at the same time, nung Baroque era naman, bakit sila ang naging inspiration ng Romanticism? Kasi nung Baroque era naman is napakataas ng emotions noon. Diba? Extremely emotional ang mga arts ng Baroque era. So silang dalaw, parang bumalik ulit yung panahon ng medieval era, Baroque era, nung panahon ng Romantic period. Kaya sobrang ganda din ng pagkaka-express ng arts through Romanticism. Kaya lang, nagkaroon na lang, hindi na siya kasing gulo nung panahon kasing gulo ng expression like Baroque era. Kasi mga tao noon nakapag-aral na sila, at saka yung art, hindi sila tulad nung purpose nung Baroque era na mag-flex, di ba? Kumbaga, magpaganda lang o parang ipakita lang yung kanilang kayamanan o kaya kapangyarihan. Nung panahon ng Romanticism, gumamit pa rin nila yung style ng Baroque pero not to the point of yung doing those purpose, kundi ang purpose na nila is to express yung kanilang mga sentiments dun sa kanilang kapaligiran. Yan. So how about the element of tone? Ano ba yung tono o yung feeling na mafe-feel mo dun sa mga artworks from Neoclassical and Romantic period? So sabi dito, ang tone daw ng Neoclassical is calm and rational. Yung, kumbaga, parang ano lang siya, walang masyadong emotions. It's just an art. Ano lang siya. And rational, ibig sabihin, it makes sense. Yung kanyang message, wala na siyang hidden meaning. Aside from dun sa kung ano yung nakikita mo. What you see is what you get. So, ganun yung tone ng Neoclassical. So, how about Romanticism? Kabaligtaran siya nitong dalawa na to. First is, it is very subjective. Ibig sabihin, it differs from one person to another. Maaaring makikita mo isang artwork, sa iyo, ang interpretation mo is iba sa interpretation ng ibang tao because the meaning behind the painting or the artwork is very subjective from one person to another. Spontaneous, meaning, ano siya, kumbaga sobrang random ng mga feelings na makikita mo or ng tone ng message niya. Maring for some people, it speaks of calmness, it speaks of neutralness, pero to some people, they could feel yung chaos, yung sadness behind a particular painting. So, sobrang random nung message na ipinaparating or nung tono na pinaparating ng art ng Romanticism. And non-conformist, ibig sabihin, wala silang sinusunod na mga standards or patterns, kundi malaya nilang ginagawa kung ano yung trip nila dun sa pag-express nila ng art. So, how about the subjects? Sino ba yung kadalasan mga pinipaint or ginagawa na subject ng mga Neoclassical art? So, sa Neoclassical daw, it's more on Roman and Greek history. So, kadalasan sa Neoclassicism, pinoportray yung mga Greek gods and goddesses at yung mga Roman heroes. While in Romanticism, kadalasan na mga subject is yung mga legends ng bawat bansa. And then, exotica, ibig sabihin na exotica is yun yung mga nude paintings or yung mga parang pictures of violence, ganyan. And sometimes, meron din nature. Kasi sabi ko nga sa inyo, di ba yung landscape painting was exalted during the time of Romanticism. How about the technique? So, technique pertains to how the art is being created or portrayed. So, sa Neoclassicism, stress drawing with lines, no color, no trace of brushstrokes. Yan yung mga nakita natin nung example. Diba kasi ang Greek and Roman art, sobrang precise nila when it comes to lines. Malinis na malinis yung pagkakagawa ng mga paintings, ng mga sculptures, wala mga other designs kasi they are pertaining to simplicity and balance. Yun ang gusto nilang ipakita sa panahon ng classical period, ng Neoclassicism. While Romanticism, since non-conformist nga sila sa standards, yung brush strokes or technique sa pagpipaint is unrestrained, rich in terms of color, and then there are visible brush strokes. Mas kalat-kalat yung mga examples ng mga paintings ng panahon ng Romanticism. And then, how about the role of art? What is the purpose of art? So, parehas yan na meron silang pinaghuhugutan bakit sila gumagawa ng art. So, sa Neoclassical, it's more on morally uplifting and it serves as an inspiration. So, dahil since ang pinagkukuhanan nga ng subject nitong mga Neoclassical art is yung Greek and Roman history, so they tend to use yung kwento behind that to give an inspiration or teaching or educate the people sa mga tinuturong values nung Greek and Roman history. While sa Romanticism naman, the role of art is very dramatic and carry viewer away. So kasi nga ang intention ng Romanticism is to express their emotions, so definitely the role of art is full of drama. And the point is you have to make the people feel what you want them to feel. Yun. Kaya since 'di ba dito kung sa role niya sa neoclassical is more on just an inspiration or more on teaching values, dito sa romanticism is you want the artist wanted to let the people, the viewers of the artwork to feel what they are feeling. You understand? Okay, so next is in terms of composition. So composition is how the parts were being, how the parts of the painting is being put together. Yeah. So most figures in foreground. Ano ibig sabihin ng foreground? Yun yung nasa front, kung sino yung nasa harapan. So most of the figures are in the foreground. Nandun na sila lahat. While ito naman sa romanticism daw, di ba kasi natatandaan ninyo, sa neoclassical, it's more on, they are pertaining to balance. What you see in the left is also on the right. Gaya, di ba, no? The oath of Horatus, di ba? Yun, nakatandaan nyo yun, parang tatlo dito sa kaliwa, tatlo dito sa kanan, and then meron tatlong sword yung si Hero, di ba? And then binibigay niya yun dun sa tatlong mga soldiers, and if the columns are equal, so we can see that nandun talaga sila lahat sa foreground. Dahil they are following a certain composition which is yung balance. Now, how about sa Romanticism? They use diagonal, crowded compositions. Sa mga dadating na araw, mas lalo ko to i-elaborate sa inyo what is the meaning of diagonal and crowded compositions. Kasi kadalasan, yung mga tao, yung subject inside the painting, sobrang crowded niya. Ibig sabihin parang ang dami-daming tao na nagkakagulo dun sa gitna. Yun, gano'n na idea niya. And it uses diagonal. Ibig sabihin, yung position niya is, yung direction ng mga pagiging crowded ng mga tao is in a diagonal direction. Okay? And then, we have lines. So, ano ba yung mga lines na ginagamit sa neoclassicism? So, it's more on a linear style. So, ano sabihin ng linear style? Outlines are sharply defined through controlled brush strokes. Kaya nga sabi kasi nyo, parang if you look into neoclassical art, sobrang linis talaga ng design ng neoclassical art. Kung mukha ng tao yun, mukhang-mukha lang talaga niya. parang kinat out yun kasi sobrang linis ng brush stroke because they are using sharp defined brush and controlled brush strokes. While in Romanticism, it is more on a painterly style. What is the meaning of painterly style? Kung ano yung stroke ng brush, di ba? Yung brush naman is parang random naman yung kinakalabasan niya kapag inilagay mo na yan sa papel. So, ganun din yung idea ng Romanticism. Hindi sila masyadong kinokontrol yung flow ng brushstroke dun sa kanilang canvas. Kaya nga, sabi dyan, brushstrokes are less restrained. And lastly, in terms of the texture, so sa texture ng neoclassical, it's smooth and no brushstrokes can be seen. Kaya nga sa inyo, it's very clean. When you look at it, it's so clean, it's so orderly. And yung mga tao, yung mga characters inside the painting is very smooth yung kanilang figure. Kasi nga, walang brushstroke na nakakalat-kalat. While in a romantic painting, often has visible brushstrokes. So that makes the painting felt like it's not smooth. Why? Kasi it's as if moving because the brush strokes are very visible. Yan. So, moving on, Neoclassicism and Romanticism are in sharp contrast. They both exhibit distinct features that can be seen through the works of art. So, let's try to think, ano ba yung differences ng Neoclassicism and Romanticism? So, let's see. Yung neoclassicism daw is more on reason kasi it originated from the classical period wherein it is the age of enlightenment or age of reason. What is the purpose of art? What is the purpose of existence? What is the purpose of life? Yung mga ganyan. So it's more on reasoning. You have to try to understand what is the meaning of things. Yan. While in Romanticism, it's more on expression of passion. So dito, it's no longer what is the meaning of life, what is the reason behind we are doing this. It is more on what is kung ano ba yung nararamdaman mo. How do you express yourself? Yun. So it's more on emotions ang romanticism. Kaya the romantic art is very passionate rather than reasonable. Next, nature is defined as human nature. Yan. So, yung nature daw, yung nangyayari daw sa ano natin, sa kapaligiran natin, is defined as human nature. Kung ano yung katangian ng isang tao, yun daw yung nangyayari sa ating kapaligiran. At yung mga nangyayari sa society is just a manifestation of the human nature, of our character, of our thinking, of our decisions in life. It's just a manifestation of that. Yun daw ang ibig sabihin ng nature. While in Romanticism, nature is defined as a natural environment such as kung ano yung nakikita natin sa nature as in yung physical environment like woods, mountains, etc. So nakita niyo yung difference. So parang nature sa neoclassical is more on sa human while nature sa romantic is more on sa natural environment. Next, society is more important than individual. Pero dito sa Romanticism, individual is more important than society. Kumbaga sa Neoclassical, what is the good, kung ano yung nakakabuti sa lahat, yun ang mas mahalaga kaysa sa kalagayan ng isang tao. Nakuha niyo? Yung mas nakakabuti sa kapaligiran, sa society, sa lipunan, ang mas importante kaysa sa kung ano yung pinagdadaanan mo, kung ano yung pinaghuhugutan mo. Yun. While in Romanticism, it's more on the individual is more important to society. So parang sa kanila naman, sa Romanticism, aanuhin mo yung society kung hindi mo kayang protektahan ng isang particular na tao, paano mo poprotektahan ng buong society? Nakuha ninyo? So, nakita that there is a big contrast between the two ideologies. Dito sa Neoclassical, it's more on communal, ibig sabihin, more on sa kapangkalahatan, general. While in Romanticism, it's more on individual, mas personal ang kanyang atake. Next is, Neoclassical is imitation. Bakit sinabi kay imitation ng Neoclassical? Kasi di ba ginagaya niya nga lang yung style ng Greek and Roman. Yun. And then, Romanticism daw is more on originality kasi they try to create, experiment. Yun, which is yun na nga yung sumunod, di ba? You see, sa Neoclassical, it's more on tradition because they are following the standards of the Greek and Roman style. While in Romanticism, it's more on experimentation. Hindi kami sumusunod sa standards na yan ng mga Greek and Roman style ninyo. Basta ako, express ko sarili ko, kung ano yung lumabas sa gawa ko, yun, that is myself. Yan, sa kanila. And Neoclassical speaks of rules and order because they are following a certain tradition, di ba? So, bakit mayroong tradition? For the sake of rule and order. Ito yung standards na sinusunod natin. While in Romanticism, it speaks of freedom because you want to express kung ano talaga yung individualism na bawat isa sa atin. Next, mechanical form or imposed from the outside. Kung bakit sinabi niya mechanical form? Kasi kung ano yung mga rules, yun ang sinusunod mo. Meron kang sinusundan na mga certain standards. Kaya mechanical form. Kasi nakaano ka, parang, di ba ang mga machines, they are following parang a certain pattern in order to work, in order for it to work. So, ganun din ang panahon ng Neoclassicism. Kaya mechanical form because the rules are established from the outside. While in Romanticism, it is more on organic form, growing from the inside. Why? Kasi ibig sabihin nito, ikaw mismo yung gumagawa ng rules for yourself. No, hindi yung society or hindi yung mga outside factors ang nagmo-motivate sa iyo or ang sinusunod mo in order to create an artwork. Next, Neoclassicism speaks of logic and Romanticism speaks of intuition or more on feelings. Logic means more on thinking. Next, Neoclassicism is more on reasoning, and then Romanticism speaks of imaginations or emotion. And then, Neoclassicism attempted objectivity. Objectivity, ibig sabihin, lahat isasabihin sa'yo, ito yan dapat na ma-feel mo, ito dapat yung makita mo dyan sa artwork na yan, o dito sa ginagawa na yan, sa music na yan. Yan. So parang nakakulong sila doon sa, ito dapat yung lumabas dyan, ito yung purpose niyan. While Romanticism accepted subjectivity. Ibig sabihin, kahit na magkakaiba tayo na interpretation, it's okay because the message is subjective. It depends from one person to another. Next, sound or cultivated landscape. While Romanticism is more on country, preferably untouched nature. So in terms of the landscape painting, kadalasan daw ang pinipaint or ginagawang subject sa landscape painting sa Neoclassical is more on the mga towns or mga cultivated landscape. Sabihin yung mga inayos na landscape, pinaganda ng lugar. While in Romanticism is more on country, and sabihin yun yung parang mas remote na mga lugar at preferably untouched nature, yung mga lugar na hindi pa pinapaganda or hindi pa dide-develop. Next, Neoclassicism speaks of constraint, ibig sabihin pinipigilan ng mga tao na mag-express, while Romanticism speaks of spontaneity. Ibig sabihin spontaneity, ibig sabihin malaya ka ako, very spontaneous, malaya ka kung anong gusto mong gawin. And then, Neoclassical, it speaks of conformity. You have to follow, you have to conform to the standards. While Romanticism speaks of independence and rebellion. Lastly, cultivated formal and social. While Romanticism is primitive, become the focus. Yeah. So those are the differences between Neoclassicism and Romanticism in terms of its purpose or its meaning. Kitang-kita natin, di ba? Sobra talaga magkakaiba itong dalawa na ito. Yan. Okay, so for your activity, sabi dito, sa directions, paint or sketch an illustration showing the ideas of neoclassical or romantic painting. Observe the usage and application of the elements of art. So what are the materials that you are going to use? Oslo paper, art, and coloring materials. So on the next page of your paper, write your reflection using the guide questions below. So ano ba yung masasagutin nyo dun sa questions? Sa likod or sa next page na inyong papel. What is the subject of your artwork? Ibig sabihin, sino ba yung dinrawing mo? O sino ba yung ipinaint mo? Number 2, why did you choose this subject? Sino ba yung, bakit yun ang pinili mo? And last is, what did you feel while doing your artwork? Ano yung naramdaman habang ginagawa mo yun? So dito, sa painting na to, you will just show your ideas of neoclassic or romantic painting. You will only choose one. Kung gusto nyo na gawin yung painting nyo na inspired siya ng neoclassical, meaning so more on sa mga Greek gods and goddesses, yan, yung merong sense of balance, merong sense of parang values, ganyan, yun yung neoclassical. And then, pwede din naman kayong pumili ng romantic painting. So, alam nyo na, pag sinabi ng romantic painting, it's very rebellious. It speaks of what is happening in the society and what you are feeling or at the moment. So, yun. Bahala kayo if you want your inspiration to become neoclassical or romantic. So, yan. Basta at the end of your presentation or the end of your painting, you will answer the following questions. Okay? Yan, so much for that. Thank you very much for attending our class. I hope that you learned something from me. So makipansin niyo, hindi ako masyado nagpakita sa inyo ng mga example ng mga neoclassical art at saka ng romantic art. But on the following days, yun naman kasi talaga yung concentration ng topic natin ngayon. So magpapakita tayo na para mas lalo nating maintindihan yung differences between the two styles of painting. So again, thank you very much for attending our class and I see you again next time. Goodbye.